Well, I think I've been negative enough for a while. Now let's move on to something a little more positive. So, what has Star Wars done well over the ages? And historically, this is one where I want to take the vehicle designs over the years. Not so much in the sequel era, just because a lot of that is copy and paste. But I'd like to take the prequel era ships and some of the original trilogy ships and kind of explore those and understand why are the designs as good as they are. Let's start with the original trilogy. The Empire has the TIE Fighter, the TIE Bomber. Every now and then you'll see a TIE Interceptor. But effectively speaking, when you're dealing with an enemy, and at the time it was an enemy, it's a big, faceless enemy. Their strength is the fact that you don't really know who you're fighting. It's always the Empire. And their ships reflect that. From the smallest TIE Fighter to the largest Star Destroyers, everything short of an Executor can blend into another ship. You never truly know at a glance anything other than this is the Empire. Now let's convert that over to the Rebels. What do the Rebel ships look like? They look pretty beat up, to be honest. The Y-Wing looks about like it's gonna fall apart for the most part. The X-Wing looks a little more put together, but not a whole lot more. The best craft they ever have is honestly the A-Wing, which is the only one with proper paneling across the entire ship. Everything else has some level of exposed circuitry. Everything. Well, except for the Mon Cals, but the Mon Cal Amari just they look like the Mon Cal cruisers. They don't appear to be intimidating. But each faction has ships which represent it. The empires are very uniform. The rebellions are a ragtag group of craft that, in many cases, appear as if they're about to fall apart. And for a rebellion using everything it can scrap together, that's a good thing. That works very well. Now let's go to the Confederacy versus the Republic. The Republic has similar to the Empire. It is a single uniform craft. It is almost as faceless as its clones are initially. And I say initially so that all my Clone Wars fans don't murder me in the comment section. But the Republic has craft which are obviously mass-produced for an army which is fairly uniform. Any one craft can be piloted by any one trooper, and all the proportions, the layout, everything's going to be the same. There's no need to be uniform, to have any kind of difference. And then you flip over to the Confederacy. The Confederacy is an army of droids. If you look at the Confederate ships, barring a couple of them, they look extremely stripped down when it comes to in terms of life support. The ship itself is there. There's obviously armor. There's obviously guns. But outside of a Providence or a Lucrehulk, most of these craft look like it's equipment bolted onto a very small frame. Almost as if the ship itself is automated. And in a way, the ships are very automated. They are run by battle droids. So, yeah, kind of. So, regardless of whether you're looking at a Republic ship or a Separatist ship, both sides appear fairly mass-produced, but the Republic ships have volume. They appear to have a necessary space for the crew, whereas the Confederacy appears to be heavily stripped down, all the way to its guns and armor, because everything else is unnecessary. And these are decisions which are deliberate. They are effectively global design choices. In all four factions, all of their ships generally follow this design principle. The Confederate ships are rarely filled out. They always appear to be just what they need and maybe a little less. The Republics appear to be a lot of the same craft over and over and over. You need a frontline battleship, throw the carrier at it. It's a terrible decision, but you're throwing a carrier at it because that's what we got. The Empire is a single, powerful ship. It's full Tarkin doctrine all the way. The Rebels are what can barely be scraped together. And this is something that I think should be taken moving forward. Factions should feel as if the faction is one. When building out a fleet of pirate ships, consider which pirates. If it is a Hutt clan, they should have a particular feel different to a separate pirate faction. If you were to have Tiber's On brought back in, Tiber's forces should look different than the Hutts, just almost on the ship design. Building a Mandalorian fleet should look different than a Rebel fleet. It should look different than an Imperial fleet. And the Mandalorian fleets should generally hold over time. So, I think that's just something to consider moving forward. Star Wars has done factions very well historically, and I think it should take that moving forward.